Hello, I'm Lee Gaylord, and I'm the crazy old man. I'm going to talk to you about the wars and the troops. In the beginning of the war, when people thought that we had a reason to be in Iraq, they went to the anti-war people and they said that they were not helping the troops by being anti-war. It said if you were anti-war, you were anti-troops. I got one thing to say to that. Bullshit. If you're pro-war, you're not for the troops. The troops in Iraq are fighting a war that was not supposed to happen. They're fighting a war based on lies. In Afghanistan, it's the same thing. They're fighting a war based on lies. And now Israel is trying to get us into Iran, so we can fight the war based on lies. The United States is the most powerful country in the world. That does not give them the right to go around telling the world what to do. That does not give them the right to attack Iraq when Iraq hadn't done anything to us. Now, Saddam Hussein was a dictator. But we put dictators into countries all the time. Not we, the United States. And right now, the people are worse off than they were with Saddam Hussein. They are getting murdered. And I really can't blame the troops because they're just doing what they have to do. They say, well, if you don't believe in what you're doing, don't do it. In the military, you can't get away with that. In the military, if you want to live, you have to kill. Simple as that. And these people didn't ask to go there. Now, they were in the National Guard, and we learned in the last Iraq war that instead of sending regular troops over there, we were going to send National Guards over there. This is a war that is against humanity. George Bush lied about everything as far as the reasons to go over there. George Bush lied about 9/11. It was not bin Laden and Al-Qaeda. And even if it was at the command of George Bush. Because Al-Qaeda has been trained by CIA. Now, I just put up a film called the I can't even remember what it was called. The Ground Truth. And it's about what happened to the men and women that went to Iraq. And it's about how they're treated by the military when they come back. Now, when the Vietnam War was starting, I was in the Navy. And in 1964, I believe, I volunteered to go to Vietnam. And I probably would have been on the riverboats. I failed the physical. I look back at it now and thank God I'm lucky I failed that physical. Because with Vietnam, when the guys got out, they didn't have the help that they needed. I had a good friend who was in the Green Berets, and he was an advisor. It was just him and Vietnamese troops. He had all the cocaine and marijuana he wanted for nothing. He was in heaven there. He comes home addicted to cocaine, and the Army doesn't do anything about it. Army doesn't care. Once you're out of it, they don't care what happens to you. So I met him in a bar, and he had just bought a bar and a restaurant and disco. And so I became his accountant. And he was selling cocaine out of the bar. You go into his office and you'd see cocaine on the table and ready to be sniffed. And so eventually he decided that he was killing himself. So he quit selling and he quit using. Quit on his own, he was doing good. So then I was supposed to meet him, and it's always best to call the day before and make sure he's going to be there. And so I called the night before, about 2 in the morning, and he said, yeah, he'll be there. And I called about 11 in the morning, closer to noon. And the barmaid said, Mike's no longer with us. I said, well, he's the owner. He can't fire himself. He wouldn't fire himself. She said, no, he's no longer with us. What happened was, the story that the cops told and that the family went along with was that he committed suicide. Took a shotgun, put it in his mouth, pulled the trigger, and his brains were all over the room and the ceiling. I talked to a guy who saw him about 15 minutes before it happened. And he said there's no way in the world he could have committed suicide. He was so happy about getting off the drugs and not selling them anymore. But his father was a lawyer for the mafia. His father didn't do anything about it. The police investigation was nothing. They just said suicide. By 4 o'clock, the body was found at 11 o'clock. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the office was not only cleaned up, it was new ceiling, new furniture that looked exactly the same as the old furniture. So it looked like it never happened. And it upset me for a long time. And I'm thinking, he's a casualty of Vietnam. I knew another guy. He worked for a client of mine. No, he didn't go to Vietnam. That was a prison story. Well, anyway. To this date, the Army doesn't give a damn about you when you're gone out of the military. If you have Mental problems, they say, well, you had those when you came in and they aren't going to pay. Many servicemen and women come out and end up being homeless. And I believe I have some things on YouTube about that. If I don't, I'll put it on. As before, I was limited to 15 minutes, and now the limit is gone. So I can put things on longer. Like I have a couple things on here that I have 3 to 6 parts, and I can put the whole thing on and get rid of the parts, or keep the parts and just let you choose whether you watch the full thing. But we have to realize that the wars are for the wealthy. The wars are for the defense contractors. The wars are for George Bush and Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney is a part owner now, and one of the companies that the government's paying. So he's getting paid. The wars are not right. Iraq is a war crime. It's an illegal war. But the United States doesn't give a damn what others think. That's why we're the most hated country in the world. And it really bothers me when I look at what our government is doing. When Obama was elected, I had great feelings about him. In fact, he's the first politician I gave money to. And after he won, he still kept asking for money. And I couldn't afford to give him the money that I gave him. But I thought he would bring about change. But he didn't. And he's not going to. He's doing the same things that George Bush did. Our country is being destroyed by Israel. And our leaders are letting them do it. Israel has a lot of people in Congress. And Israel is using our money to support their war, and our money to bribe officials, and our money to commit genocide in Palestine. There is no war going on now that is right. In fact, since World War II, every war was wrong. We had the Cold War. The Cold War was a bunch of bull. We did not have to worry about Russia, but we wanted to meddle into their affairs and to stop them from taking over communist takeovers from other countries. Thing is, though, we put in governments that were worse than the communists. For some reason, a country that is, well, they say democratic, but it's not, it's a republic. For some reason, we like other countries to have dictatorships, even though we say we're